Hello everyone, I'm Dada the Butt, and welcome to Abuttment, a Minecraft 1.12 Let's Play for both new and non-players. After the fun of the previous couple of episodes, I need a rest. I've been promising you diamonds long enough, so we'll be going down to level 11 and going diamond hunting. One of the reasons I like to get this mob farm going nice and early is that once it's running, it will sit there and gather resources for us as long as we are within 128 blocks or so of the mob farm and the drowning trap. So now we can get on, do our little jobs, and come back, and our supply here will gradually grow over time. Before we jump down for diamonds, a couple of very quick jobs. Once we've got our diamonds and armoured up with diamond armour, we're going to be building an enchantment area, probably in this area here. One of the things we will need for enchantments is paper. It's not in there. Paper is grown from sugarcane, or should I say paper is made from sugarcane, which you've grown. Just notice I've got my hotbar turned off. There we go. That's the F1 key, by the way. Gives you a nice uncluttered screen for certain tasks. Anyway, yes, paper. Paper is crafted from sugarcane. Sugarcane is grown in sand next to water. Ordinarily, I'd be tidying up my farm by now and putting a little sugarcane plot in. However, as stated, I've been promising you diamonds long enough. Do with a gate out into this section. There's some fences, there's some gates, there's my axe. Et voila. Yeah, normally I'd have a sugarcane plot running within the farm. But let's stay focused on diamonds for a bit, but I can start doing this. So it has to be next to water. It has to be in sand. I seem to recall there might have been some more sugarcane over in this direction. Yes, I thought I remember seeing some. Any more? That gets us started, and I'll bob up every now and again and tend that. The second job is I now have a reasonable quantity of iron, such that we can upgrade all of our tools in our inventory from stone to iron. They'll last a little bit longer, and we won't need to swap between stone and iron when we're wanting to harvest our ores. There we go. I've tidied up and replenished my inventory and upgraded all the stone tools to iron. Let's drop down to our mining hall and I'll explain my diamond mining algorithm. Here we are in the mining hall. An interesting aspect of Minecraft to know here is that the Minecraft world is split into what are called chunks. The maps are made up from chunks which are 16 blocks by 16 blocks on the X and Z axes. So let's say from here, 16 blocks that way, 16 blocks that way, from bedrock all the way up to the top of the sky is a single chunk. And then the next block runs 16 blocks that way, 16 blocks that way, all the way up, etc. So 16 by 16 on the X and Z, encompassing the whole Y-axis. And these are Minecraft chunks. This is of interest to us in the context of diamond hunting, in that a seam of diamonds is placed into each chunk. But this is before the cave systems, lava, any sort of hole, etc. is taken away. Therefore, should you come into a cavern, that space could well be where the seam was prior to being taken away. Additionally, a seam can start in one chunk and cross into another, giving the appearance that a chunk contains two seams, but you never know from the algorithm which of the two started in that chunk and which of the two started on the edge of another one and crept over the boundary. Sounds a little technical, however, what it means to us is that somewhere within each 16 by 16 block there is a seam of diamonds, and once we have found that seam or determined that it doesn't have one, we can leave that chunk and move on to the next one, gathering resources along the way. So I tend to use that as my terminator for tunnels, i.e. once I've found the diamonds within a chunk, then I move on to the next chunk. F3, as you know, gives us our XYZ coordinates on the left at the top of the second paragraph. The third line gives you the chunk coordinates, i.e. we know that the center coordinate, level 11, is our height, but you can see how the X coordinate descends towards 0 in this direction and then switches to 15. Our Z coordinate is 12, reduces, and if I could go far enough that way, I would find 0, 0, i.e. the bottom left corner of that chunk. When I created my base up top, of which this is a duplicate, the center block, i.e. where the ladder is, as you can see, is on a chunk corner, 0, 0, excluding the central Y coordinate. What I will be doing is running along, creating tunnels on these 0 boundaries. And I'll go for 4 chunks worth, so that's 64 blocks in the X direction, and then 64 or 4 chunks in the Z direction. Now that will find me any seams that cross chunk boundaries, allow me to exclude some chunks and decide whether or not I'm then going to cut through the center of any chunks where I haven't yet found the diamonds, or decide to exclude them if they've got massive cave systems or lava lakes. Hopefully that gives you a rough idea of what I'm doing and why. In terms of the entrances I've carved into the side here, I forgot that that was going to be 0, 0. I'd ideally like to use the level 11 shafts. Unfortunately, here's the central pillar of the fortress, so that's a 0. I need to work at level 11 across here, so I'm actually out by 2. And 4 of these, if we assume, let's assume that that's a 0. 4 of the entrances, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be the start of the next chunk boundary. Although in essence we'll be starting here and going 1, 2, 3, 4, and that will be our next boundary. I'm going to create a second chest in here, within which I'm going to collect the results of this mining trip to give you a rough idea of what you would collect on such an expedition. So as I say, 4 chunks by 4 chunks, 64 blocks by 64 blocks, and then gradually cutting into the centre, moving on to other chunks once the diamonds within a chunk have been discovered. And finally, the whole question of why we're mining at level 11. People have conducted extensive experiments and analyses of ore distributions within Minecraft. Once I've finished this video, I'll find a chart that I'm aware of that graphs the presence of chunks. The presence of ores statistically by each layer or Y coordinate within the map. And I'll bring that map and insert it into the video here, and also provide a link to it within the description. As promised, I've grabbed the Minecraft ore distribution image and come back to insert this clip. It is a good demonstration of why it's good to ask questions and do some research around the game. It just makes it much richer and more interesting. The question we're addressing here is, where do we find our ores? This is a distribution graph, roughly how frequently does a particular ore occur. So here we're looking at coal. We have coal, iron, gold, diamonds, redstone and lapis mapped against what level that distribution is found upon. For example, coal, just over 1.2%. 1% would be 1 block in 100. Let's look at level 10. So coal just over 1 block every 100. Redstone pretty much exactly 1 block every 100. And lower than that is iron. And then way down, round about 1 block in 1,000, we have gold, diamonds and lapis. Nothing happens up until about level 2, 3, because they're all bedrock. The graph runs up to 130, 128 is the ceiling level, the sky limit. Though I believe that may have changed in more recent versions, but the graph still holds. Here we have level 64, which is sea level, and that's why we get the big drop-off in coal and iron. Coal and iron, therefore, pretty much ubiquitous up until sea level. The other ores, gold, you need to get below level 30, likewise with lapis, but redstone and diamonds, you need to get below about level 15. This is why we tend to recommend about level 11 gets you a pretty optimum distribution of ores, anywhere between 11 and up to 15. This graph I've taken from the official Minecraft wiki under the ore entry. It's pretty well distributed across the internet, but I've placed a link to it within the video description. I've already worked on this face, which is going to pollute the figures a little, so I'm going to start on this face. This is 0 on the X coordinate. We're at 7. Let's just dig into 0. So I need to go another 8 blocks. Even though I'm using iron tools, the range is still 5 blocks. We'll just use the normal technique, dig 5 blocks, place a torch, take out any resources we find. So I just need another 3. This has taken me to 0, 0. So we'll mark that as being the first of our boundaries on the Z coordinate. And we're going to work up 4 chunks. So that would be 3 torches will take me 15 blocks. That would be 15, next torch, sorry, 5, next torch would be 10, next torch would be 15, and then the block after that will be our next chunk boundary. You can also see on at the top right on my little map radar that I've enabled it to show me chunk boundaries. So you can see here, I'm running across this chunk boundary here, and I've just marked out this chunk boundary here. So 3 more, so 3 sections of 5, so 2 more. Discovered some iron, I'll come back for that. And some redstone, and now that we're using iron tools, we don't need to swap. And again, there is a chance that whilst we're chasing these seams of other ores, we come across our diamond seams, and then that chunk would be excluded. So that's our 3 torches. Should give us a Z chunk coordinate of 15. This then is our next chunk boundary. That is our second chunk boundary of the 4 that we're going to run. Here we are at a lava cave. I see torches. This is the lava cave that is in the base of our chasm. This means that this area here, both in, under, and the air gap over the lava, could well have been where the diamonds were for this chunk. Being careful as we take this redstone out, aware that we do have a lava source quite close, but I do have cobblestone ready to block that off should I hit it. And I think that's my third torch in the sequence. Also notice that my pickaxe has already swapped with not enough and just enough items. There is an option to switch on what is called repair friendly refill, whereby it swaps a tool for a fresh one just before that tool becomes broken. So this tool was about to break. Just before it did, it swapped in a new one. I've enabled this so that I can keep an eye on the number of pickaxes that I would have gone through over the course of this experiment, and we can validate whether or not we found more iron than we would have used up in terms of iron pickaxes. That was our third torch, so this is a chunk boundary. And that is our third, so we just have one more to go. Both gold and iron in this segment. Five doors worth, and of course that brings me into a cave system. I'm okay for armor and weapons. I'll just quickly rearrange for combat. And go and light that cave system up generally as quickly as possible, placing on the right hand side of the floor a nice easy one. Doesn't contain any ores other than a bit of coal, because I've lit the cave up. Oh yeah, a bit of redstone there as well. I can be sure that I've got no mobs coming in behind me. And then once I'm happy that the cave has been explored and mined, I put the torches on the wall. And that shows me that this area has been dealt with. Now this is the extent of what we're going to do in this segment. So now I'm going to turn the corner and enclose 4 chunks in this direction. We should be standing at a 0, 0. And now we'll run up 16 blocks on the x-axis, mark the chunk boundary, and do that for 4 chunks. That's now enclosed our 4 chunks along the Z boundary, along the X boundary. We're now heading back towards the base. So that's our first lava ceiling breakthrough. If you get it in time, you do get these particle effects to say that you are approaching lava. I was a little, here we go, so that means that that has, see this particle effect here, so that block is one below lava. It is the floor of a lava lake, but we do know that there's lava for a couple of blocks the other side of this. I need to try and repair that quickly. Yeah, I got that one. So if I now break this block, looking at this angle, I might be able to fill this back in before it flows. No. I'm going to have to go under. Obviously we don't know the extent of the lake, so I need to be ready to block off. Is that my 0, 0? Not quite, I need to go one more in that direction. So that's where I would put my torch. Yeah. So we now need to dig this way, back towards the towards the first tunnel we marked, going a little carefully. And here we are, back through to our mining hall. So no diamonds on that particular excursion, but all we've done is run a perimeter around 4 chunks. Let's go see what that netted us. So that will be 4 64 block tunnels. The pickaxe here is about the same amount of damage, just a little bit more than the one I started with. So we've gone through 3 full pickaxes, the equivalent of 9 iron blocks. We've found 51, so that's not a problem. Granite, diorite, andesite, not too fussed about those, they're just building blocks. Just under 4 stacks of cobblestone, but remember I tend to fill my excavations back in to keep my tunnels a bit more clean and navigable. 12 dirt, 41 gravel, 10 gold, our 51 iron, just over 1.5 stacks of coal, and just over 3 stacks of redstone. So even though we haven't found any diamonds that just happen to be crossing those particular boundaries, quite a useful net digging in and of itself. What we'll do now is return back. We've done the perimeter of 4x4 chunks. We will now run round the perimeter of each chunk individually, i.e. we will bisect that square from one 4x4 into its 4x4 constituents. This stage is quite easy as we don't need to do any counting. There's our outer perimeter. Here's our first chunk boundary. We just keep going in a straight line, placing a torch every 5 blocks, and keep going until we break through into the perimeter tunnel on the other side. We'll do that for each of the Z-axis tunnels, and then we'll repeat the exercise for each of the X-axis tunnels. Chasing a coal seam, and we've hit an iron seam, so we'll chase that for what it was worth. And there we go. Broken through into our outer perimeter. Skip up to the next chunk boundary and start working our way down there. You'll notice I always try and stay the level above when I'm mining ores, just to mitigate the chance of breaking through into a lava lake, such that I'm standing above it rather than alongside it. So that's all the x-axis boundaries done. We're now going to skip to the extreme south and then work up north on this one and back down south on the other. We're at the closest tunnel to the fort at the moment. Notice I'm down to 8 torches. I imagine my inventory is getting quite full as well, so I'll take the opportunity to nip back to the fort and replenish my torches. I know there'll be those out there shouting at why do I fill these holes in rather than just leaving a torch. It's just a habit I got into. Stops you stumbling across unexpected holes later in the game. And also sometimes when you fill it in, you don't have to go chasing the drops, as whilst you're putting in the cobblestone to fill it in, the drops will pop out and come to you. So for instance, these redstones and now this coal that are gathering up at the top there, if I was to fill that in, they would just pop off. I need to go up there anyway to chase this coal seam down. Well, obviously feel free to do whatever suits your own personal style of gameplay. Interesting that we just had the double sparkle audio alert letting us know that we've gone up another whole level on our XP, and notice that that was to level 30. Had we an enchanting table, level 30 is often the level at which you then go and do some enchantments. But we'll be learning more about that hopefully in the next episode. To be honest, it just means that probably I'm going to die shortly, and having achieved level 30, go back to about level 6. Right, there we are. That was my last northbound tunnel, bringing us back to the corner of our outer perimeter. And on this occasion, no diamond seams crossing chunk boundaries, certainly at level 11. What we'll do now is we'll go to stage 2, whereby we will run through the centre of each and reduce the chunk further into a 7 and an 8. And again, we'll just do that by starting, that's 1, 5, so 6, 7. If we go up through this one, then that should leave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah. Remember, of each chunk we've taken 1 out, leaving 15. This takes another 1 out, which theoretically should leave 7 either side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's take that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, that's the one. So we'll run up here, these, chopping each chunk in half, again at level 11, on both the Z and the X axes. Yeah, our first diamonds. Well, our first using this method. Here we go. So almost smack in the middle of the chunk. So let's waypoint this. Remember, dig around. We don't want to lose any to lava. Remember, we've already taken one out. Quite a nice little seam, this one. Certainly better than the ones we've had to date. We want to try and get an air gap around the whole seam, such that when we release them, we know they're not falling into a lava stream. There we go. Nice and safe. We can now grab them all. Eight. Best seam yet. So now, if you look on the radar, you can see that the waypoint with the chunk boundary lines, the waypoint is in the middle. Let's get that more up on the, well, it's showing you the overworld rather than the underworld. But here are our chunk boundaries. These diamonds are smack in the middle. So this chunk is now done with. So we can now focus on the other chunks. The same as that chunk we found earlier in the game. And there was another one somewhere up here. But to be honest, we'll carry straight on and exit out the chunk in this direction. So that chunk there, so from here to here, from this corridor up to the next cross corridor, we will no longer bother hunting. This is the outer perimeter. Diamonds, obviously quite precious. I will go and put them into my chest, such that should I break through into a cave system and go spelunking and die, my diamonds are tucked nice and safely away back at home. So these are all the ones I've genuinely collected. First little lapis seam of the session. It's going to come in useful for our enchanting. Always a question whether or not to dig out gravel. Obviously we could do with flints for our arrows, and it would aid in a diamond hunt, so I'm going to spend a little time doing that. Done all of our north-south bisections. So we'll start bisecting the chunks. That's 5, 6, 7. We'll start bisecting the chunks east-west. Yay! Found another diamond on the roof of this segment. So this is doing bisecting one of the southmost chunks. Let's clear that out, see how big a one we're dealing with. Air gap all around this now. Let's waypoint it and see how many we get. No lava. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that one. We've finished the north-south bisection of the chunks. This does leave us between each chunk quite a sizable 7 by 7 block. So we'll do our final run, which is to bisect the bisections. So we will have 1, 2, 3. We will run down here. That will leave us 3 on the other side. So there will be 2 of these down the length of the set of chunks, either side of the central. And we only need to do this for the chunks where we haven't found diamonds, and as this will be the last set on this level, we tend to, this is our standard run of 5. There are 3 blocks, so what we'll just do in the center on the third is just punch a single block in. And likewise for the torch. That way we get to see pretty much every single block within the chunk. There we go. That's level 11 cleared. So there's our corner. 4 by 4. And we found diamonds in 2 of the chunks. Let's go and evaluate our earnings. We've been through about 16 pickaxes, 3 iron each. That would be 48 iron. But we have found 128, 148, about 153 iron ore. So we're operating well in excess of what we're going through in our tools. Bit of granite, bit of diorite, bit of andesite. Not too fussed about those. They're not particularly useful other than as building blocks. Plenty of cobblestone. Could have been more. However, I do tend to use it to fill up my holes. That will benefit me when I'm doing level 13, as I won't be continually falling into ore holes. And a couple of stacks of dirt. It does surprise me how much dirt you do find down at these levels. That was the first chest. The valuables are more in this chest. Just under 4 stacks of gravel for turning into flint should we decide to. 27 gold. I've already mentioned 153 iron. Coal for days. Most importantly are 15 diamonds. I'm looking to get about 30, which would be enough for diamond armor and some basic diamond tools. Redstone for days. By the time we get to using that, we will be collecting much more. 35 flint. That's great for our arrowheads. And just under 2 stacks of lapis, and they will come in useful for enchanting, which we will be doing in the next episode or so. I'm sort of tempted to run at level 14 on the opposite axis. Gives us a bit more exposure and also takes us an extra level up. We have exposed a lot of the level 13 as the roofs here. So a lot of level 13 is exposed. So yes, I think I'm going to operate with the same a matching perimeter up at level 14. So we'll be running across the top with this as the floor of our perimeter at level 14, and then run in the x-axis. Yeah, this did all of this on the y-axis, sorry, z-axis, north-south. So we'll run level 14, same perimeter, but then bisect using the x-axis. Step up to level 14 to intersect with our perimeter, create the perimeter, and from that point on everything you've seen before. So I shall just come back if I find anything interesting. I am expecting to find slightly less general ores at this level, as many of them will have discovered whilst chasing the seams at level 11. For example, there are a couple of blocks of cobblestone here that show we came up to this level chasing an ore seam from the level below. However, as you see, there are still some, primarily in the higher walls and the roof. Well, that was a waste of time. Level 14, 16 chunks, all fully investigated, no diamonds. Other than I say 16 chunks, 14 chunks, excluding the 2 that we'd found down on level 11. Let's drop down now to level 8 and repeat the exercise. Okay, did you see that? There's lava behind that block, but there are diamonds behind that block. Yeah. Do need to be quite careful when blocking off lava flows. If you get it wrong, for example, were I to place a block here, then I could cause the lava to flow further forward. If I can place a block on the side, so bridging this gap here, that should stop this flow. Not sure if I can use sand in this situation. I think it just burns. Oh, no, there we go. I think it's just those two. They've got sand behind them. Yeah, I think any others that were around them were replaced with lava during that generation phase. I've used all the iron and coal that I brought down with me from the basement, so I am going to have to dip into my level 11 stores. So I'm going to take 1 stack of iron and 1 stack of coal. I had some coal there, but probably not enough to get me through, so keep the figures round. I'm going to put 3 of those on to cook. There we go. There's our 3 iron. So what I'm going to do is use those 3 to make a bucket. And put that irritating lava to some use. So we'll take a bucket of lava. Oh, the hot stuff advancement. Take it out of my inventory. The last thing you want to do with lava is inadvertently deploy it. And if memory serves, a bucket of lava is sufficient to cook a whole stack of iron. So the lava is now here doing the cooking. I may now take my bucket back and leave that to cook for a while so I can replenish my pickaxe count. Yay, some more diamonds. Look at that in the floor at level 8. Last but one of my 16 chunks. Pickings have been quite poor up until now. Okay, let's see how many of these bad boys we've got. 5. So those were the diamonds in the chasm. We've been exploring this 4x4 equals 16 chunk section, of which we've found 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I suppose about 4, possibly even 5 of those could be explained by chasms or lava. That still leaves 6 that we've not found. Yeah, need to have a think about that. There's been quite a long break in recording. Minecraft is a leisure activity for me. I'm not one of the great YouTubers, so there are periods where I don't get to play on the game. This particular one, it was the Christmas break. The last chance I got to play on it was New Year's Eve. It's now the 13th of January. Anyway, in the meantime, I was considering the success or lack thereof of our mining. One of the things I do like about Minecraft, it's written in Java. This is a language I am proficient in. Proficient enough to write a little routine to pass through the game files and look at where the diamonds are that we haven't yet found and output those locations into our map. So here is our 4x4 area that we have been chunk mining. We found the diamonds in through 3 or 4 of them. Yes. So we found that one, that one, that one, and that one. So possible 16, we found 4, and you can see the reds of the diamonds that still exist in our area that we haven't yet uncovered. That is one. Those are the diamonds we found in the chasm earlier in the game. Now we can see most of them is because I haven't gone low enough. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of diamonds below level 8. There was one chunk with diamonds at 14 to 15. Let's go check that one out. So somewhere in this area. It's now behind me. So why have I not excavated this chunk? I've not excavated that chunk because I thought I'd found the diamonds within it. Which would imply that these diamonds belong to that chunk. But they certainly don't seem to cross the boundary. Some more research to do on that basic premise then. 2 blocks of diamonds within a chunk apparently. Now we'll do a repeat down at level, it would have to be level 5 to get all of them. So there's a 4 here, a 6, a 1 and 2. I probably wouldn't dig that low anyway, so those ones would just be lost. The mining hall, this design here with entrances at 11, 13 and 9 don't go low enough. The whole premise of the mining hall for branch mining is not to worry too much about chunk-based mining, but just to run out along these lines at these levels and pick up resources as we come across them. For chunk mining, diamonds are below level 16. I would revise my algorithm such that future ones I will dig at 13, 14, exposing the roof at 15 and a floor at 12. Then we would dig at 9 and 10, exposing the roof as 11 and the floor as 8. We could then dig at 5 and 6, exposing the roof at 7 and the floor at 4. In terms of this set of chunks, I'm going to resolve that by running an extra level down at 5 and 6. We're running round the outer periphery of the 4x4 section at level 5, and we've come across our first group. Let's clear around. Usual story, make sure there's no risk to the cluster before we mine it. There we go, no risk, nice and safe, and a nice 8-block cluster by the looks of it. That's all done now, and I must admit I'm quite impressed with just how many ores we were finding down at level 5 and 6. Obviously there's the 18 diamonds, but we were a bit honed into those. But over a stack of iron and virtually 3 stacks of redstone. Not too much on the gold, but yes, levels 5 and 6 are well worth mining. Yes, it will be interesting to repeat this experiment with the algorithm now revised. Let's take all of our winnings and haul them upstairs. A trick here, things like lapis, redstone, coal, where we have single ores, such as the coal here. I'll run around and collect all of the coal. They can be combined into coal blocks. Let's do it with whole stacks. So if we craft it in a 9x9 grid, so we get a block of coal. So 1 block of coal will consist of 9 ores, and you get 7 blocks of coal from a stack with 1 left over. Good. We now have a rough scores on the doors. I've tidied all the chests up and blocked all the ores. Let's have a quick look. Least important, well, I say least important, I could have done with this during the mob farm episode, but we now have just short of 2 double chests full of cobblestone. That will come in useful later. Our miscellaneous stone, so plenty of granite, diorite, little less on the andesite, bit of dirt, not surprising down at these levels, and some gravel. That will come in handy for making flints later. In terms of the good stuff, so 64, just under a stack and a half of blocks of coal, so remember that's compressed at a 9:1 ratio. Likewise with the redstone, 15 blocks of lapis, 48 gold, 1, 2, 3, 4, just over 5 stacks of iron. Seems quite impressive, but let's have a quick look in this chest. These are the tools that we went through in the exercise. So 1, 2, 3, so 5 9s, 45, 49, 3 iron in each. 120, 147, and 3 shovels, so 150. So, yep, 2 stacks, just over 2 stacks of iron in tools, so we are just over 3 stacks of iron in profit. Some loose redstone left over. Should really block that to make another 9, so that would be 41 with 6 left over, 1 lapis left over. 49 flints, so we're going to be great for arrows. Remember, I think they go at 4 to each flint, along with a feather, goes towards making 4 arrows. But most importantly, the whole reason for the exercise, 47 diamonds. 30 is the magic number to get you started with armor and sword and tools, etc. What is particularly impressive about that, not only is it 47, it's taken us quite a while to collect it, but remember those 47 came from a 4x4 chunk area. If we were to get 47 diamonds branch mining, we would probably be 30 chunks over to the north there. Yeah, we did find some on this one. So you do find them as you're running along. And to be honest, that was the way I always used to find diamonds. But certainly the density here is very impressive. Not sure about the duration, but that could probably be improved as I tweak the algorithm, and especially doing it off camera, not confusing myself trying to talk to a microphone at the same time. Although, to be honest, I'm not sure if this would be feasible if you didn't have a mapping tool like voxel maps. So, but plain vanilla, I think it would probably be quite difficult. You would be forever having to refer to your coordinates on your F3 screen. So it can be done. See how it goes in the future. I'm going to move all this stuff upstairs, check out my mob collection, and I shall end this video here. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, I'm not in this for the likes, but if you did enjoy it or find it useful, then please leave a like, and that will help other people to find it. Feel free to leave a comment, but please be nice to each other. Continue playing Minecraft.